I'm Mohit Tiwari. I'm one of the co-founders of Symmetry-Systems and the CEO. The Symmetry was spun out of Spark Lab at UT Austin. We had a long history of research into arcane field called information flow. Security, it's been a long-term field, has dashed many hopes. We got inspired by working with hospitals who were working with complex care kids, and they wanted to make sure that they could use applications outside of EMR, EHR tools to take care of complex care kids. And we thought we could apply information flows to make sure that medical data can go through different apps, social workers, family members, everyone can collaborate, and they would not break HIPAA compliance. That was what was blocking the usage. So that's what started us off. We learned the hard way that hospitals are not the earliest adopters. And the famous question was like, oh, which banks use you? And me and my co-founder, Kason, we looked at, we're like, we are university students. No banks use us, university research. So yeah, so that's how we started being more thoughtful, worked with cloud providers, worked with NSA, General Dynamics, Lockheed, just kind of covering the spectrum. And in late 2019, we felt we had seen enough that we could spin out, build a company around our work in information flow. To me, DSPM is really about how is information flowing, how is data flowing, but at the layer of data and identities. So we talked about information flow from our research. It's really rooted in the simplest questions. I have privileged users, admins in my environment. How can they touch customer data? Did they? Such a simple question. It's incredibly hard to answer because admins can go into the systems in many different ways and so on. You can think of other types of identities. You have vendors in your environment. Did they touch customer data? You have third parties where you share it. There's so much controversy that Facebook gave information to Cambridge Analytica. That's a simple use case of, I'm giving you information, I want to track how it gets used. So after seeing this in research for a while, we were just very convinced that if you can understand how is information flowing amongst identities, whether they are human, whether non-human, inside, outside, we can answer the hardest questions in security that are at the heart of all security and compliance. So to me, that's what DSPM is about. Like, let's root security around how is data flowing in my environment, and where we spend money today on endpoints, they're all the peripheries of the nervous system. They should come after we have mapped out where the main information is and how is it flowing. So great, DSPM is just an acronym. The big kind of outcomes that we can drive using this visibility into data flows and data identities is, now you know, is there a buildup of dormant data in your environment? Lots of regulations say this. Good security practices is minimize data that you're not using. But it's not easy to determine what data is in use and what is not in use, who should be responsible for making a judgment call on it. So all of this visibility and context building DSPM can really help with. We have helped with a Fortune 500 company, help them delete 25% of production data in their environment. That's a material outcome for their security compliance. That data lake does not have to be SOX compliant anymore because we also offboarded over 1,000 identities from that environment. And we can show that all the sensitive data is in there is just super tightly locked down, right? So this is just great practice and great like IT outcomes beyond just security outcomes. And that's primarily one in a data lake environment. A whole different outcome could be in a product environment where you have developer teams, they have staging environments, they have dev environments, they have production environments, and customer data that is in production has to be very carefully handled as it is used for testing and staging environments. So when we first landed at a healthcare company, we were able to show lots of clinical trials data and other healthcare data was found in environments that were much more open, unbeknownst to the security team or the compliance team. So just being able to map out this type of regulated customer data and what environments were they found, and we were able to clear out vendors who should have been offboarded and clear out lots of healthcare data from places where it shouldn't have been. That's a great outcome for the product teams. A third type of environment where we see big outcomes is just corporate environment. So every company has lots of employees all the way from HR to engineers. They all have corporate data in OneDrive, G Drive, things like this. And we've been able to show that as companies roll out Copilot, for example, into their corporate environment, or when they took two different OneDrives from acquired companies and merged them, really valuable, important customer data ended up broadly shared across the company or shared with external people, or even just got in places, environments where it shouldn't have been. So being able to quickly identify, is your data estate, is your corporate data estate ready for good access control where people are not accessing each other's things, and ready for you to run copilots because they will aggregate everything and then ship everything out to different users. We've been able to drive solid outcomes such as big company, they find product roadmaps, RIF plans, sales outcomes, sales plans lying around in places where they shouldn't have, and they were able to control it very quickly. One of the most useful things for customers that I've noticed is you can get to solid outcomes very quickly. Meaning you deploy a DSPM product and within a week, within 2 weeks, you will get guaranteed findings. So in this government agency, we were able to find secrets that shouldn't have been in the environment were still there. They said it was not a big deal, but then they cleared it all out very quickly. We found 30% additional environments that no one knew about. They were accessing data in the known environment or sending data out to they were destinations of outbound data flows. And AWS can't tell you because they can't break the privacy of all the other accounts. So we're the only place that could figure out these data flows that are happening, and we're able to show them. So that was another big aha moment for them. And finally, just seeing that we talk a lot about confidentiality, meaning secrets leaving, secrets being lost. But we were also able to show that in their environment, how they rolled out code, how they rolled out container images, this created a huge supply chain risk. Because if someone could overwrite the trusted container images, now those container images will be shipped out to all the production environments, right? So integrity and availability is also a big direction in which DSPM produces outcomes. When Gartner called out DSPM around us in 2022, they called out that we have to have data, identities, and permissions, as well as operations, all in the same product to be able to be a posture management product, and that we should be fully in the customer's cloud. So I'll say that the market is still catching up to the original definition. We are the only company that can live fully in the customer's cloud. So if you are a big org, this means we won't break your data localization, residency, sovereignty problems. We will be not breaking or creating work for your compliance. We'll live fully in your environment. There is nothing that is going out, no control plane. And B, we will directly answer simple questions like, hey, this contractor company reported a breach. What customer data in my environment is affected? When they federate into my environment, we'll walk all the way from identities to data, right? If someone says this, we had to ref or fire this whole set of employees for whatever reason, like, is there something that was done by them in the last month? Not permissions. These are all privileged users, but did they do something bad? Or a whole bunch of vendors reported log4j vulnerability. Did that create new customer data flowing out of production? We can answer this directly. There's no further warts. You can answer it in GCP, BigQuery, you can answer it in AWS, S3, etc. You can answer it in structured or unstructured, and in corporate versus non-corporate environments. So just our mission really is, can we raise data security to a high level of abstraction? Like you see TensorFlow or PyTorch does for ML. Like you're not mucking around in GPUs and CPUs and all this stuff. Just ask the simple question and we will translate it across environments. We will do the threat modeling around it to see where is your data most at risk due to MITRE ATT&CK style attack patterns and things like this. We have high expectations of network security, endpoint security products like CrowdStrike. I think it's time we build something like this for data. DSPM is a rapidly maturing market. Currently, there is a lot of noise in the market, is how it's phrased. And this is primarily because there are 3 independent streams of vendors trying to get into DSPM. There are classic data security companies, long-term great companies that are in the space, Varonis, etc. There are the kind of privacy-focused companies that have been traditionally doing data classification and trying to merge DSPM into data classification. And then there are cloud security companies like Palo Alto and Wiz, etc., where they are saying that, hey, this is data context on cloud security issues. This is great to see the excitement from different directions, but all of these are really pointing towards, if you center your security around the fundamental questions around data and identity, that's where the big leverage is. And applying this as a small context on top of infrastructure security tools or privacy tools doesn't really help. So the market is maturing rapidly in that customers are now expected. DSPM is becoming an expected tool, but it's still not matured enough to the point where customers know how to pilot or POC this product so that they're not just testing for small scale, they're testing to produce these big outcomes that we talked about. It's part of our mission now to set up an organization like DSPM.org, maybe make it part of Linux Foundation, OpenSSF, and have a community effort on, let's define, we don't want to do data security as a side effect of infrastructure security. This is data and identity as its own layer, and let's drive outcomes at that layer.